so we're going to create a brand new project just by pushing the create button. And I'll call this car race 2 so that we don't get confused with car race 1. Make sure you're putting it into the folder where you save your projects. So I'm saving it into my Godot folder, and then car race 2. Beautiful. And remember compatibility, because we're going to publish these to the web, and so we need to have our compatibility mode on. And then push create. And so here we are. And now we're going to need to put together our components. Now we're going to need those cars that we created earlier. So I have in my documents folder my car race folder, and here's the 3 files I'm going to need for that. So I've got a blue car this time, a red car that I can use for one for the player car and one for the AO car, and then I've got the tile sheet, and so it's got all of the tiles that go into making up the racing tracks. You'll see there's dirt tracks and there's road tracks and there's I don't know what the one in the middle is, but you've got 3 different styles of track there that you can use. And I'm just going to drag those across and dump them into my resources folder so that they hopefully will load in my folder. Let's check that they've actually gone there. Car race 2, there they are. So they're there even though my resource folder hasn't refreshed yet. So now I'm going to start creating the bits and pieces that I need. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create my car. It's going to be a character body 2D, and we'll need a collision shape. So let's add our collision shape. And it's also going to need a sprite 2D. You could, if you wanted to, use an animated sprite, S-P-R-I-T. There we go. So you could use an animated sprite if you had an animation, but I'm just going to use a basic sprite. And then we're also going to add, as I said, a camera. So you do that just by pushing the plus and saying camera, and we're going to use a 2-dimensional camera. And so I've put that and attached it to what's going to become my player car. Then we can start to add the bits and pieces. So my sprite 2D, the texture I want for that is going to be, oh, it hasn't loaded in. Where's my pictures? I'm going to restart my project just to get them to load in. Save and close, yes, and call it car. That's a great idea. Okay, so now my cars have loaded in. Remember, you can do that when they don't appear. And so I will make my player car be the blue car. I'll just drag and drop it since it's there now. And you'll see that when you load it in, if I put it back in the center of my screen and zoom in, it's pointing straight up. Now, we're going to move our car in the X direction. And so what we're going to need to do is make sure that it's pointing to the right. And so we need to rotate our car and also our collision shape so that they are pointing to the right within our character body. So the easiest way to do that is to click on the sprite 2D, come over here to the transform, and simply change the rotation value right there to 90. And that's going to rotate my car 90 degrees to the right. My collision shape, I'm going to now find a collision shape that fits the car nicely. I think I will use a capsule shape, and you'll see that goes in, and I'm going to rotate that 90 degrees as well. Now let's put it below the sprite so we can see it. There it is. Oh, and it's blue on blue, but that's okay. Rotate 90 degrees. And so then I've got my sprite shape, and I'll resize a little bit bigger. Now I'm going to be generous. You'll see I've left it quite narrow here. And so that's going to mean that the wheels, when they hit the barriers, aren't actually going to cause a collision or aren't going to cause a crash. And so that way the wheels will be able to overlap the track a little bit, even though my car has the collision shape on it. And that's it. So I've then got my sprite 2D and my collision shape attached to my car. I'm going to create a second scene. And so we're going to just go to scene and choose new scene. This one is going to be a character body 2D as well. So I'm going to grab that. This one's going to be my AI car, so I'll rename it AI car. Let's put a capital C on car so I can tell the difference between my player car and the other one. I'll need my collision shape and a sprite, so let's add the collision shape, and we'll add our sprite. And this time I use the blue car for the player car. I'm going to use the red car for the AI car. Once again, it's gone in vertical, and so I'm going to have to rotate it 90 degrees. So it's pointing in the positive direction along the x-axis, because then when we rotate it, when it turns, it will actually turn along the x-axis. And you'll see that my sprite has attached to my collision shape, so I'm just going to pick that up and dump it on the car. And then my collision shape, zoom in on the car a bit and move it down. I'm going to make it I think a rectangle will go with for the enemy car. It's not going to hit the walls because it's going to follow that path. And so let's make it nice and rectangular, because this is just something will still be nice to the player, and make it a little bit littler, because when the capsule hits this rectangle, that's going to cause a bounce, and so we want to have it being reasonably close to the rear and the front of the car so that it actually does collide when it should collide. And so then we've got our AI car, the collision shape attached, and the sprite 2D attached. And let's save our scene there. Save all our scenes, in fact, and we'll call this one AI car. That's a great name for it. And so that's now saved. So I've now got my two cars that I can put into my main scene.